ever like unroll a plastic bag, the kind you get at the grocery store, and wonder like how they even make this?
Right.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going behind the scenes. We're looking at a job that honestly sounds way more interesting than it did when I first heard about it, plastic rolling machine operator.
Definitely more interesting than it sounds.
And our guide to this, it's a surprisingly essential role, is RoleCatcher's in-depth career guide.
Yeah, it's really cool, actually. We were not just talking about pushing buttons here. This is a field where you need some serious technical know-how and hands-on skill. There's a lot more to it than people realize.
So let's break this down because I think a lot of people hear plastic and they think like, oh, pollution, that sort of thing. But we're talking about the folks who take those tiny little plastic pellets and turn them into those giant rolls of plastic that they make everything from, right? Like I'm looking around my house right now and I'm like, almost everything starts with one of those rolls.
Exactly.
But RoleCatcher uses this phrase, and I wrote it down because I saw it so many times, attention to detail.
Mm-hmm.
What's so detail-oriented about this?
Well, think about it. Every single plastic product that you use, food packaging, trash bags, even those little shrink wrap labels, they all start as a giant roll of plastic sheeting.
Oh, wow.
And these operators, that's what they're creating.
Mm-hmm.
And they're responsible for maintaining the quality and the consistency of those rolls. That's where all those details come in.
So it's like, I don't want to say a high-stakes baking show, but it's kind of like...
Like a way.
It's kind of like that, but with miles of plastic instead of cakes.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. They're constantly monitoring the machines. They're troubleshooting any little hiccups that come up. They're adjusting settings based on the type of plastic, the thickness that they need.
Oh, so it's different for everyone.
Oh, yeah. You've got those super thin films for food packaging, right? You can practically see through them.
Right.
And then you've got the really thick, sturdy sheets for construction materials.
Wow.
And each one requires a different approach, a different understanding of the materials, and how to calibrate the machine to get it just right.
I had no idea there was so much nuance to it. Now, the guide also mentions something about automation changing this field. What's that all about?
Oh, yeah, that's a really important point. Robotics and automation are becoming way more common, even in this field, which I think can sound kind of intimidating at first.
Yeah, you think robots are taking over, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's actually creating a really interesting opportunity for anyone who's entering this field now.
Okay, how so?
Because it means that the people who can adapt, the people who can learn these new technologies, they're going to thrive. It's not enough to just operate the machines anymore. You need to understand the tech behind them, how to troubleshoot issues. You essentially have to work with the robots to make sure everything runs smoothly.
So it's not really putting people out of work. It's kind of pushing people to become even more skilled, more tech savvy.
Exactly. That's the future of manufacturing in this area and others. You need a workforce that embraces continuous learning.
That's so cool. So we're really talking about upskilling the workforce here, not replacing people with machines.
Right, exactly. And the demand for those skilled operators, those people who can really work with this advanced tech, it's only going to increase. And speaking of demands, the guide goes into the work environment a bit here.
It really does. It talks about manufacturing facilities, potential hazards, although it also mentioned clean rooms, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
What's that all about?
Good catch. Because not all plastics are created equal.
Yeah.
Some products, especially anything that's used for like food packaging, medical applications, it all has to be manufactured in a completely sterile environment to prevent any contamination. That's where the clean rooms come in.
So on top of everything else, you might need to know about clean room protocols. That's a whole other level.
Exactly. And that just highlights the diversity of this field. You could find yourself working in a huge factory or a very specialized clean room environment. It really depends on the industry and the product.
Talk about variety. And I'm guessing it's not just the environment that's varied, because the guide also mentions some physical demands for this job.
Yeah, for sure. And it's important to be aware of that. It can be pretty physically demanding. You might be standing for long periods, lifting materials, maybe even working shifts.
So maybe not for everybody.
It's definitely hands-on, but that's part of the appeal for a lot of people. You're not just stuck at a desk all day. You're moving around, you're working with your hands, you're seeing tangible results of your work.
That's a really good point. There's a certain satisfaction to that, for sure. But let's shift gears a bit and talk career trajectory. One thing that really jumped out at me in this guide was that there's a very clear career path. You don't just become a plastic rolling machine operator and that's it. You can really climb the ladder in this field.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's huge for anyone who's considering this for a long-term career.
Right.
It's not just a job. It's a profession with a lot of potential for growth.
So break it down for me. Where do you even begin in this field?
Well, like a lot of fields, you're probably going to start at the entry level. The guide actually gives an example. Imagine you're just starting out. You're focused on learning how to operate a few specific machines. You're doing those quality checks. You're assisting the more senior operators. You're really just building that foundational knowledge base.
Getting your hands dirty, learning the ropes.
Exactly. And then as you get more experience, as you improve your skills, you move up to like a junior operator role where you're taking on more responsibility, you're troubleshooting problems on your own. You might even be training those new recruits that are just starting out like you were.
So more autonomy, more problem solving, even a bit of mentorship there.
Exactly. And then finally, you reach the peak senior operator.
The top of the mountain.
Exactly. And this is where leadership skills become really important. You're overseeing operations, making sure everyone is meeting quality standards. You're mentoring junior staff, maybe even contributing to improvement in the process itself.
Wow, so it really does become almost like a management track, but within this really specialized field. I never would have thought of it like that.
That's what's so great about these deep dives, right?
Mhm.
We uncover those hidden pathways, those opportunities that you wouldn't necessarily see from just glancing at a job description.
Totally. Because it's not just about what you're doing day to day, it's where you can go in the future, right?
Right. And speaking of getting where you want to go, we can't forget about the interview process. And one thing that really impressed me about this RoleCatcher guide was that they have a whole section on interview prep.
Oh, yeah. They don't just tell you about the job, they get you ready to actually get the job.
Exactly. And not just those generic, like, basic interview questions. They're really digging into scenarios that you might actually face on the job.
Okay, give me an example.
One question that really stood out to me was, can you give an example of a time that you encountered a problem while you were operating the rolling machine and how you solved it?
So they're really trying to see your thought process, right? Like, how do you handle pressure? How do you actually apply your knowledge when you're in a real world situation?
Exactly, because it's one thing to say, I'm a problem solver. It's another thing to be able to back it up with a real example.
For sure.
And remember, we were talking about automation.
Yeah.
Questions like that, they become even more important in an environment where having strong technical skills is non-negotiable.
It really shows that you can think on your feet, that you can adapt to unexpected situations and that you can work with the technology to find those solutions. It's not just about being able to press the right buttons, it's about understanding why you're pressing those buttons.
Precisely. And that's
Yeah.
where RoleCatcher goes above and beyond. They don't just prep you for that interview.
Wait, there's more?
Remember all those other features we talked about? Like the resume builder,
Yeah.
the job searching tools?
Uh-huh.
That's all part of the platform. It gives you all the tools you need
Mm-hmm.
to take control of your career.
It's like having a personal career coach in your back pocket. It really is amazing how much support they offer, and for such a specific career path, too. But you mentioned something earlier that I wanted to circle back to about the future of this industry. The guide mentioned this growing demand for plastic products, which I'm assuming means.
A growing demand for the skilled operators who can make them. We talk about how automation is changing things, how important adaptability is, but I think this demand really speaks to something much bigger, opportunity.
Okay, so paint me a picture here. Someone's listening to us, maybe they never even considered this kind of work before, but now they're kind of intrigued. What does their future look like in this field?
Honestly,
Yeah.
it's pretty exciting. I think as those manufacturing processes get even more and more sophisticated,
Mhm.
the skills that people need, they're only going to get more valuable.
Right.
We might even see a rise in even more specialized roles.
Like, give me some examples.
Well, imagine like robotics specialists,
Okay.
people who work directly with these automated systems.
Okay.
Or process optimization experts,
Mm-hmm.
the people who can fine-tune those production lines to be as efficient as possible.
I like it.
Maybe even programmers who are developing and maintaining all the software that makes it all work.
It's not even about operating the machines anymore. It's about understanding the technology, maybe even shaping how the technology changes.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
And this is a field that's only going to become more important as we move forward, right? I mean, think about it. Plastics are everywhere. They're in everything, from the stuff we use every single day to these really cutting-edge technologies. We need skilled people to make all of that stuff, and that need is not going away anytime soon.
It's like we always say, knowledge is power. And in this case, knowing about the trends, the challenges, even the opportunities in a field like this plastic rolling machine operation, it could be someone's ticket to a really cool career. So if you're out there listening and you're thinking, huh, maybe this IS for me, what's the one thing you hope people take away from our conversation today?
Don't underestimate how powerful it can be to have specialized knowledge, especially in a world where things are changing so quickly. We're not just talking about learning a trade here. We're talking about becoming an expert in something that's at the forefront of technology.
Yeah, I love that. So the next time you pick up, like, I don't know, a plastic water bottle or a toy or something, just take a second to think about the skilled people who helped make that happen. And who knows, maybe someday you'll be one of them. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. It's been really cool exploring this kind of hidden part of the professional world.
It really has. The pleasure was all mine.
Yeah.
Until next time, keep learning and keep exploring.